Ronald Chapman is a criminal defense attorney with a lot of experience with white-collar prosecutions. Ron, thanks for being with us tonight. How strong do you think this case is against the former president?
Of all the cases, I'd have to say, Del, this one isn't the strongest. There are some issues that are going to have to be overcome by Special Counsel Jack Smith. One of the fundamental issues is, we see some restraint in this indictment, that he stayed away from openly litigating the issues surrounding January 6th, and he appears to be going more towards the obstruction of Congress and efforts to try to get Mike Pence to not certify the vote. I think that they've laid out their best case in this indictment, and it appears to be a relatively strong case, but it's not the strongest that Donald Trump is facing right now.
Do you believe that this is the only thing we will see coming from the special counsel with regards to Donald Trump, or do you see a superseding indictment in the future?
And that's the real question. I think we have some restraint here with these 4 charges. I think there could be a potential superseding indictment as they work around the indictment, potentially indict other folks, get cooperators, and possibly add additional charges. However, after looking at this indictment, it would be really hard to tell what additional charges could be levied against Donald Trump. They covered the entire range of conduct here. We've got conspiracy to obstruct a proceeding. We've got obstruction of a proceeding, conspiracy to violate the laws of the United States. Other than some sort of insurrection type charge, there's really nowhere for Jack Smith to go here unless there are other minor charges he's going to add.
So that is the question. Why not seditious conspiracy? The charge was brought against the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. But here's the kicker. Any charge that would contain language that says, if convicted on this charge, the former president cannot serve if elected, would be thrown up on as being overtly political. Your thoughts on that?
Well, that is a really good point. And in fact, one I hadn't even thought about. But in reading this indictment, one of the reasons I believe that he didn't go into the insurrection or sedition charge is because it appears that Jack Smith is using some restraint in attempting to not relitigate issues surrounding January 6th. And this is very important. Donald Trump's team has already said that they are going to relitigate January 6th, which means they're going to make this trial a months-long trial, possibly more, about whether or not there was election interference and whether or not he caused people to be there on January 6th. In avoiding that specific language, what the prosecutor is doing is setting up the argument to the judge, hey, judge, that's not relevant. Whether or not people rioted is not relevant. Donald Trump's specific efforts individually to interrupt the election is what's relevant. That way, this trial can get done before the election, and they can hopefully have a conviction.
On that note, this is John Lauro, Donald Trump's criminal defense attorney. He says the team doesn't have enough time to get ready. Take a listen.
How about he had 3.5 years? Why don't we make it equal? Okay. The bottom line is that they have 60 federal agents working on this, 60 lawyers, all kinds of government personnel, and we get this indictment and they want to go to trial in 90 days. Does that sound like justice to you?
Ron, let me just quote our reporter on Capitol Hill a moment ago saying that the charges outlined in the indictment look an awful lot like the January 6th committee hearing. Is that a legitimate argument, saying I didn't have enough time because I didn't see my homework because it was already filed in a 900-page congressional report?
Yes, that absolutely is a legitimate argument, and it's certainly the argument I would be making. First, it would be very difficult to find a substantial federal criminal case that went to trial in 90 days. When we look at the mob prosecutions or other types of prosecutions, these often take sometimes 3 years, sometimes even more to go. When Donald Trump gets the discovery for the first time in this case, and remember, he was not allowed to see the discovery or the information from the January 6th investigation. But when he gets all of the witness statements, his team is going to need a substantial amount of time to pour over this. If I was his defense counsel, there's no way I would be able to try a case in 90 days, even if I had similar resources to the government. I think it's a very valid point, and I think this case should be delayed to allow sufficient time for his defense team to get ready. That way, they won't be crying about injustice if they do, in fact, lose this case.
John, 30 seconds left. Here's what I hear. I didn't have enough time. It is political. My free speech is violated. You know what I haven't heard? I didn't do it. Shouldn't somebody on Trump's defense team say he didn't do it?
Well, that's absolutely it. I think that they're trying to work around the issues and trying to paint the case that that they need to get their defenses off of the ground here. But specifically answering to the charges and specifically providing facts in the media is probably not where they want to go. One of the reasons that might be is because of ethical considerations.
Could it also be with the fact
statements
that everybody saw it play out on television for 4 straight hours on January 6th?
Well, that may be it as well. That's a very good point. I think that Donald Trump's team's got a lot of work to do to try to make up for what the public already knows.
Ron Chapman, looking forward to continuing these conversations as this proceeding carries on, because there are a lot of issues that we will be talking about. Ron Chapman, former and current federal criminal defense attorney. Ron, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, sir.
You got it.